Sorry, that's all I got. So with Halloween just around the corner, I figured that we would do a Halloween inspired turning. So this is a piece of maple burl, and as you can see, I've got a glue block on it already. So this is covered in anchor seal. I want to trim that away and get it ready for casting. So that's what we're doing this week. Hi everybody, it's Jim from Sprague Woodturning. Welcome to this week's video. Hopefully I didn't scare anybody in the opening there. I know it's terrifying, right? Pretty lame. Sorry about that. So we want to get the anchor seal stripped off this because we want to make sure that the resin gets into any of the cracks that are in the surface of this burl. And if you haven't worked with burl typically when it dries, you're going to find a lot of cracks in it. It's pretty rare that you're going to find a solid piece of burl where you're not going to have to do some sort of filling. So it's important to strip that stuff away so that it exposes any of the cracks so it can be filled by the resin. So if you've been on my channel here for a while, you'll know that I've been doing these voiceovers, and you know what? I really enjoy doing these. I never thought that my channel would go in this direction and be more or less an instructional channel, but you know, I really enjoy making these instructional videos, and you know, I'm going to try and leave some lathe sounds in the background while doing them, but you know, I have no intentions of stopping these voiceovers because they seem to be very popular, and I hope that people understand that. So the outside is done. Not really anything new there. And I am using the 5/8 bowl gouge from David Ellsworth. And I do find that of the two, trying to turn the inside is always more difficult than it is doing the outside. But if you back it up to the beginning of this clip, you'll notice that, you know, the gouge is pretty much on its side almost, certainly at a 45-degree angle. And once you've got that little shoulder for the bevel to ride on, then you're good to go. Until you can get that shoulder, yeah, it can be a little sketchy, but because usually there's a lot of end grain in burls, you can use it on its side like I am right here. And if you drop the handle, it's almost like an inside shear cut. So, you know, I know that a lot of people really struggle with this type of turning and they're fearful of it, getting those devastating catches. Just remember, if those flutes are facing upwards when you try and enter the wood, on those high upper wings, you're probably going to get a devastating catch. And there you go. I think that this is good enough for casting, and I'm happy with the surface. Now we're just going to remove any remaining bark that you see. And once I get that done, you'll see me use a brass brush in my drill. And that really does a good job roughing up the surface on the very upper edge, because you certainly can have it. You can have a delamination if the wood where the resin bonds to it is not roughed up and ready for the resin to adhere to it. So it's important to do that. So make sure if you're going to do anything like this that you do that. And make sure that if you are going to do this style of turning, that you go and get these little hook tools and pick tools. You can actually even ask your dentist when you're at your dentist what they're doing with their old pick tools, because they can be used for this regard as well. As a mechanic, we used to use them to take O-rings out of spots, so they work good too.
So it has been a little while since we have done one of these bowls. And what I'm going to be using here is a 6 mil poly. Just want to find the center on this roughly.
I really like using the 6 mil poly because it's a thick, durable plastic. If you use anything lighter than this, I'm fearful that, it's going to cut easily. And then, of course, you're going to have a big mess in the pressure pot when you pull your casting out. So I like to use the 6 mil poly. And if you're wondering what that is used for, it's used for vapor barrier and when you're insulating homes. It may be called other things in other parts of the world, but that's what it's called here in Canada. So I'm just going to stick this in the bucket so that we can kind of maintain a form. And then you'll see me put in these plastic spacers, and that's just to keep the 6 mil poly from encroaching into the area where the resin's going to sit. And this week we're going to use the rice method. I do find that this is one of the best methods for me to use. And one of the reasons why I use the rice method is if you do get a leak, you can actually turn that rice away. If you're using something like marbles or another harder material, rocks, whatever, if that combines with the resin, then you might have a hard time getting it out of the casting. So that's why I like to use the rice. And I do the same thing on the inside so that the plastic kitchen bag doesn't encroach in the area where the resin's going to be as well.
There. That's a little bit of work, there's no doubt about that. I think I'll just throw some tape on this here to make sure that it doesn't go anywhere. And then we'll mix up some resin.
This week we're going to be using Designer Epoxy's Art Cast, and the main reason why I picked this is because you can really achieve really good color separation, and with our orange and black themed bowl, I think that it is the perfect thing to use. Just like we've seen in the opening, we're going to be using some pumpkin orange and some silver black. I like mixing my pigments strong. I know that a lot of people want to see a more translucent look, but I prefer, I like color and I like to mix my pigment strong. And the silver black will give it a little more shimmer, so that's why I chose it.
All right, so I'm going to move these into my clean room and I'll keep an eye on them. And as they start to increase in temperature and thickness, I'll do the pour then. And same thing, I'll put everything in the pressure pot and get it ready to go because I don't want to be fooling around with that when this stuff will start to cure up. All right, we're ready to pour. Based on experience, now that I have a bit, I know that when this art cast hits about 42, you better start pouring because it's going to cure pretty fast. There, I don't want to give it any more black than that because I don't want it to overpower it. It is 3 days later since we did the pour on this, and the little zip tie fell off of this. That's all right. Get the rice out of here first. Well, looking down inside of there is promising, that's for sure. Yeah, I was afraid of that. The resin's kind of pushed down on there. Should have supported this better. that's probably why the resin has dropped off here. I think we're still going to have a decent sized bowl, but yeah, got to come up with a better solution, packing rice or setting this down on marble so that the plastic can't get pushed off of the bowl is best. I was actually quite worried about this. I thought it might leak around here, but no, not by the looks of it.
I think that a great solution to support the underside of that bowl would be to use like a spray foam, but of course, small spray foam's not cheap. And along with that, it's messy. If you've never used spray foam, trust me, it is messy. So, supporting it with in a bed of marble so it can't push that plastic down is probably the answer to this problem.
Well, at least it looks like we got ourselves a good solid casting, so that's good. Just wish that this hadn't happened because this would have been filled at the top. So, it's going to be a shorter bowl, and I really wish that this had got filled in as well. That kind of surprised me that the resin didn't get down in there. Oh well, let's get on the lathe and trim it up and see what we're looking at.
If you're new here, this is the Hercules from Hunter Tool Systems. This is the tool that I really like to use when I'm working with wood and resin. And it's got a carbide cutter, replaceable carbide cutter tip on it. And I really absolutely love this tool because you see me using it an awful lot on this channel. So there is a link in the description to get 10% off your next order. Just use code INLAYGYM, and that goes for all of the sponsors of my channel. In the description down below, you can get those links to get some stuff and put some money back in your pocket. Getting back to the plastic on the outside of the bowl, I could have kind of spot glued it all the way along, and I've tried that, and that still doesn't work unless you really glue it in maybe 40 different spots. It still will push past those glue spots and make pockets on the outside of the bowl. So, I would like to try the spray foam method, but I just think about the mess that it's going to create afterwards. And the other thing with the spray foam method is if you did use that, there's the possibility that if, say, the bowl was taped down into the form, well, that spray foam is going to expand, and what it can do is push the plastic into areas that you don't want it to go into. And then, of course, when you pour the resin, then you're into some other issues. So I'm just continuing to trim the outside here up near where the resin is. Well, it's actually kind of deep into the bowl too, but there was a little bit of encroachment. So I'm just trying to clean that up so that we've got a good solid area. And, so far it's looking pretty good, I must say. Very happy with the color separation on this piece. It's probably one of the best ones I've done so far. Since we just got wood at the very top of this piece, I decided to use the 5/8 bowl gouge just to trim that away until we get to the area where the resin is. Now I was getting a little bit of vibration and you can actually hear it in the background. And what I think that that was is this is one of the bowls that's been sitting on the shelf. When I'm talking to the camera at the end, I've always got bowls up on the shelf, and I took this off the shelf. And it had been sitting there for quite some time. And what can happen with these glue joints? So I would glue a whole bunch of glue blocks on these and then stick them up there on the shelf and then proceed to finish them as I see fit. But if they go through an entire season, sometimes the glue will want to delaminate from the bowl through humidity in the summer and, the dryness in the wintertime. So keep that in mind if you do stick a glue block on the bottom of something that, there's a possibility that it could delaminate. The resin in this piece kind of encapsulated the waste block, so I wasn't really concerned about it coming off, but it certainly could pose a problem. So keep an eye out for that. If you're hearing that noise, it could be that.
Well, what do you think? I think it's absolutely perfect. It's exactly what I was going for. It's too bad, that the resin sank to the bottom. Would have been, we lost maybe an inch off the overall height of this, so it's not really that bad. But this is pretty much exactly what I wanted. Nice color mixing, easily achievable with ArtCast. But I got some cracks down in here. So for these really small, fine little cracks, I'm just going to use the clear Starbond. But for any of the bigger cracks, I'm going to be using the black CA. Yeah, there were some deeper voids right down here in the center, and I was actually kind of hoping that they were going to stay there. But the deeper I go into this, then the less they appeared. And what I was going to do was just take a little bit of the orange pigment and dump it in the crack, and then add, of course, the black CA with it. And I think that it would have kind of replicated what else we got going on here. But anyway, I guess it's best that we don't have any really large cracks. And I know that this stuff probably set up really fast, and that's why all these cracks right down here in the very bottom didn't actually get any resin to them. If this was deep cast, it would have completely made this whole thing solid for sure. So anyway, I'm just going to keep adding this as it goes down into the crack and it seems to disappear. I'm just going to keep adding more and more. Along here, I'm just going to use thin CA here. I don't really see the need. Well, I don't think that I can get the tip down inside of there anyway. Just using a little bit of accelerator to set it. And again, if you spray this from a long distance away, like something like that, you'll find that you don't get as much foaming action from the CA when it cures. And the great thing that I found about the black is that it doesn't typically foam when you hit it with the accelerator. So that's awesome. Anyway, that looks to be about it for the inside. The outside looks pretty clean. Got a little bit of chip out there. I think what I'll do is I'll throw some black CA in there. The rest of it looks pretty clean. All right, I'm just going to let that sit up. Actually, I think it's pretty much the end of the day here, so I'm just going to let this cure overnight. And we'll see you tomorrow.
So before we do any sanding, of course, we want to trim away the excess CA glue because that'll certainly affect your sanding. There's that vibration again. And I was having a hard time getting getting the surface cut cleanly with gouge. It was freshly sharpened and it just really wasn't working for me. I worked at it and worked at it, and then eventually you'll see me go to the Hercules again, and I rotated the cutter on the Hercules to a nice fresh spot, and it cut very, very cleanly, and I was very happy about that. And that's what I'm doing here now. So, usually that shear scraping method works absolutely fantastic, but for whatever reason this week, it wasn't working for me. There you go. It looks like a really nice surface ready for sanding. Uh, there is a little void at the very base that I'll have to address later on, but for the most part, it's good to go. And of course, the same process on the inside before we do any sanding. So when I trimmed it, I exposed actually more cracks. So there I filled them again with the thin CA glue and trimmed them up once again. Finally, on to sanding. These are the 3.5-inch dimple discs from sandpaper.ca. And I will also remind you that they do ship to the U.S. So if you're interested in getting these discs, you certainly can order them from the U.S. as they ship there as well as Canada. Now I've left this clip at real time, and the reason for that is because I know that when I speed up the sanding footage, a lot of times people have it's really hard to tell how fast I'm going with the drill. So right now the lathe is spinning at 1,000. My drill does 2,400 RPM, and as you can see, I go relatively slow throughout the whole surface of the bowl. Let the sandpaper do the work, and not so much your arms. When I work on the outside, I try to basically tuck the drill into my chest. That way, I find it takes a lot of strain off of my joints. So, if you're not power sanding, you should give it a go because it really will give you a better surface than hand sanding. At least that's been my experience. But I'm curious as to what others are doing. So, down in the comments, leave me a comment if you're hand sanding or power sanding. Thanks. So yet again, the filling of the CA glue continues. Next time when I do one of these bowls, if I remember to I'm going to lift that bag of rice out of there, and then I'm going to actually pour some resin down in there and then set the rice down inside, and hopefully it will fill up any of those cracks. So before we do any finish, we're going to use the Triple E buffing compound from the Be All buffing system, and then some denatured alcohol to clean the surface prior to putting on the first coat finish.
This week we're going to be going with Waterlux Original VOC Medium Sheen.
First time I've noticed it, but that's a pretty cool little bow tie emblem there in the dead center of that bowl.
Well, what do you think about that awesomeness right there? Sorry about the noise in the background. I'm warming up my tractor. We're bringing firewood in today. Wow. These are the types of burls that I really like, with the light and the dark in them and all kinds of wonky looking grain. That resin, the way it's combined, is exactly what I want it. She's a beauty. All right, we'll see you tomorrow for the second coat. Wow.
Again, this will be directed more at the new subscribers. Again, using the triple E buffing compound and then cleaning with denatured alcohol before the next coat of finish goes on. And this gets done between all finishing coats that I do on the lathe here.
Good morning. This is the second coat of Waterlux Original VOC Medium Sheen. Well, again, the Waterlux has covered so well that I think that we're going to get away with just two coats. The swirl patterns in this resin, I mean, it's just crazy. Absolutely love it. I just wish that I could use this for the peacock hollow form, but of course, this is really only meant to be used for 1 inch of thickness. Burl is spectacular. Nice and shiny, just the way I like them. All right, we'll see you when we're doing the foot. If there's a third coat, I'll do it the same way as this one.
So after 2 coats of finish, I figured that the surface is good enough. So here I am parting the piece off the waste block, and I'm using the 3/16 inch parting tool from Crown. Crown makes fantastic wood turning tools. Give them a try, and just cutting it free with the saw. Now the vacuum chuck, again, this is another really useful tool. And again, for the new people that haven't seen this before, it's essentially just a vacuum pump, and it pulls a vacuum on a chuck on the outside that has a neoprene seal on it. And it actually fixes the bowl to the lathe without leaving any marks on the bowl. And it is a fantastic product. These are interference pads, and they were sent to me by sandpaper.ca. And the white sanding pad that goes in the drill was sent to me as well. They want me to try these out, and I think that they're going to be available for purchase on their website soon. But I just wanted to give it a little try to see what they're like, and so far so good. I did see a little hole there in the very bottom, so I had to make the foot a little bit wider to delete that. And then once that's done, continued on with sanding, and then it was good from there. I did use the Osprey there because I was just having a hard time, again, cutting that surface clean. Let's finish this video up.
Well, that's it for the video. What do you think about this beauty bowl? I will put some rotating images up at the end like I usually do. Exactly what I was going for. Too bad about the waste resin on the outside. Here is the very bottom. It's only got 1 coat of finish on right now, but it will certainly need another coat of finish, and then it will be ready to go to its new home, and this piece is available. Please send me an email to spraguewoodturning@gmail.com, and I will disclose the price to you then. I know that a lot of people are probably looking for more kitschy kind of Halloween stuff, but I'll be honest with you, it's not me, folks. You're not going to see me combining colored pencils and Lego, and it's just not me. I'm not that person. So I like to make timeless classic pieces, and hopefully that is, this piece is in that category. It is actually 9.5 inches across and 3.5 inches tall, and it's a beauty bowl. Lots going on in this bowl, lots of color variation with the burl. Burl is fantastic, the resin is fantastic. It's pretty much all the ticks in the box for me. Too bad about the waste resin that we lost on the top, because it would have been certainly a taller bowl, 4.5 inches, but it's still a beauty piece. All right, well, that's it for this week. Next week, I'm trying to do something, but it's just not working for me. So this will be the third resin pour that I'm doing with it. It's been a nightmare. So I'm hoping that it's going to be a really cool project if I can stop it from leaking. But anyway, you'll have to come back for that. Anyway, don't forget to leave a comment down below to be entered into the Designer Epoxy Draw, the 3-gallon kit at 80,000 subscribers. And just in the comments down below, just leave Designer Epoxy all by itself. No quotation marks, no periods, no nothing. If it isn't separate like that, then I don't know if the random YouTube comment picker will pick it. So just leave Designer Epoxy and nothing else, and that's only for Canada and the lower 48 US states. Sorry, the rest of the world, we just can't ship it worldwide. And of course, by commenting down below, you'll be entered into a bowl giveaway, which will be coming up soon. I don't think we'll hit 75,000 next week, probably the week after that. So that's probably when we'll do the giveaway for a bowl or something, maybe not a bowl. Well, that's it. Let me know in the comments what you think about this week's video. And of course, don't forget about our sponsors down below in the description. Make sure you check them out. And yeah, that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. It was a little shorter this week. Stay safe out there during Halloween. Put your kids in bright colors. That way, they get home safe. All right, well, that's it. Till next week, take care. Stay safe. Don't forget the bell. Please share my videos with your friends. And we'll see you next week.